Hey everybody, welcome to Back Issues. I'm Sal.
I'm Ethan.
I'm Ben.
I'm Jason.
We did it in one, folks. Normally, when Jason's here, we like to tailor the episodes to an interest that Jason has, but we're gonna just do a regular old episode of Back Issues.
Yeah, now he has to suffer the way we suffer.
That's right.
That's
you're
right.
You're just gonna drop right into the deep end of the pool with this thing called Wolverine versus Spider-Man. Now,
Enjoy this deuce.
I mean, this should work.
I think it should. I think it should because that's the template of the show. The format is I explain comics to some people who don't have any context for them.
No, I meant this book
Right,
should
and I
work.
have-
The concept
Well,
Spider-Man
sure.
and Wolverine.
I mean, I hope.
I don't know,
Should
the
be
concept
interesting.
of this show, I don't think it works.
Yeah, I mean,
10 years in.
Give it another 10. We'll see where it works out. But this is weird,
Okay.
and here's why. In the 80s,
Well, they're two heroes. They should be fighting.
Yeah, but they're Marvel heroes, so they're always fighting. And it's Spider-Man, so that's also always going to happen. Because part of the conceit of like every Spider-Man interaction with any other member of the Marvel Universe is he is a hothead who always just jumps into a fight immediately. Like, you can always know the strength level of every other Marvel hero because you can set it against their formidability against Spider-Man. Like, you can, if you have a Marvel hero, you can bet your bottom dollar that Spider-Man threw down with them, and more likely than not, that other hero had nothing to do with that fight. Like, that hero is just minding their own business, and Spider-Man just threw himself into a fight with them, and they're just like, ah!
So what you're saying is Spider-Man's a crazy person.
Yeah, he is more or less a crazy
Okay,
person. I mean,
okay.
yeah.
I have no context for any of
okay,
this.
so
This is
Well,
great.
initially he was like a kid, right? So
He was
he's
a child,
yeah,
so it's like,
yeah.
he threw himself into that. And that's the thing, is that once he broke into his 20s, he kind of stopped doing that. You know, it was mostly just about like him being a teenager and just being stupid and hot-headed.
Right.
You're also dealing with a person who, okay, so in the beginnings, when Spider-Man was created, he was more or less being influenced by the creative forces of Steve Ditko and Stan Lee, and Spider-Man was closer politically to like a libertarian than most of his other superhero counterparts. You know, so he would like young, straight-laced, public school attending yet sweater vest wearing Peter Parker would see protesters because it's like the world outside your window, and he'd be like, why don't those hippies get a job?
Said no 15-year-old ever.
Never! Like, well, thank you, Steve. I know who ghost wrote this one.
He's a hothead. Like, he'll make quips at people.
Yeah.
That's always going to instigate somebody.
he is-
And, like, one person you don't want to instigate is Wolverine.
Absolutely not. In this case, though, Wolverine is the more sensible one in the party.
Because he's like
What?
1,000 or whatever.
He's only a few hundred.
He's learned some temperance over the years.
I mean, he should, but also don't forget he's got that berserker rage.
Right.
But anyway,
And clearly that stems from some deep trauma inside.
easily. I mean, we all know
Oh,
that.
it definitely did.
Definitely. But in the 80s, they did a story called Spider-Man versus Wolverine. And that was a one-shot that was written by Christopher Priest under a pseudonym. And he told this story about like Spider-Man going to Germany and he bumps into Wolverine and they have some laughs, and then Spider-Man accidentally commits manslaughter against this poor woman who has no powers. She commits suicide by Spider-Man, where she...
That's dark.
It's really dark.
It's messed up.
Oh, there's multiple deaths, like multiple long-standing character deaths. Like Ned Leeds, a guy who used to work for the Daily Bugle and was a friend of Peter's, who also then married Peter's first girlfriend, then was thought to be the Hobgoblin because the guy who invented Hobgoblin and actually knew the identity of the Hobgoblin was unceremoniously kicked off the book and took his secrets with him. And so editorial had to come up with who the Hobgoblin was without actually knowing the secret. And so they just came up with Ned Leeds as a kind of FU and said like, oh, well, Ned Leeds was killed, so let's just retcon like a week later that Ned Leeds was the Hobgoblin, but now he's dead, and so this guy's gonna be the Hobgoblin, and that's where you get the whole Jason Macendale jack-o'-lantern nonsense, which you have no context for, but we don't need to worry about it.
Right, that happened in that book.
That happened in
Many
that
people
book.
died in that book.
2 people really died. Well, actually, a lot of people, because like Charlie, the girl
Hey, depending
who
on how many
died-
people are in the room, 2 might be a lot.
Well, that's true, and also like
If 2 people
Wolverine-
died in this room right now, we'd be like, well, it's a lot
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot.
But Wolverine was also involved, and his only power is, outside of like, you know, tracking and healing, is blasting 6 retractable knives out of his forearms. Like, what else is he going to do? He's not going to subdue them. He's going to stab them to death. There are lots of people who died in that book, but only 2 of them are people we might care about. In any case, Spider-Man leaves with some horrible trauma, and that's like a book called Spider-Man vs. Wolverine, and it's like famous/infamous in Spider-Man's history. And then this book came along. Now, this book is not originally called Wolverine versus Spider-Man.
What?
But it was called that in the collection, which is to say this normal-sized comic book, because originally this book was released under the Marvel Comics Presents banner. There was a series called Marvel Comics Presents, which had short stories, and once you were finished with the first story, you flipped it over and then read a completely different story.
But so this book is also just sort of a standalone
Yes.
little side story.
It is. That's why
Doesn't-
they were able to do this.
And it's one comic.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like, 3 or 4 issues.
No, that's the thing, is that it went over, I believe, 2 issues of Marvel Comics Presents, which allowed it to be basically the length of a regular-sized comic book.
Right.
And so here it is now, and they repackaged it as Wolverine versus Spider-Man. I should warn you, they only fight for 2 pages. So it's really not
That's not a great
much.
payoff
It's
there.
not, and Spider-Man versus Wolverine, they fight. And they fight hard. Like Spider-Man fights Wolverine, and he's like, I think I have to kill Wolverine. And Wolverine's like, you can't, but I will kill you.
You can certainly try.
Yeah, and that's a really cool fight. Like, that one's pretty rough and
Well, I mean,
interesting and has stakes. This one
Spider-Man
has
does
none.
accidentally kill someone that Wolverine knows.
That's true, but Wolverine wanted to kill her. The point was, Wolverine was going to mercy kill her because he loved her so much. She was a spy who knew that multiple governments were gunning for her, and she would never know a moment's rest. And so she was like, well, I'm hardened by my years of service, and so I know that the only way that I will see rest is eternally when I die. So I'll just ask my former lover and convenient killer Wolverine to slaughter me.
Yeah, those
And then
things feathers coming out of his hands.
Exactly. And then Spider-Man shows up and he's like, oh, Wolverine's about to murder that girl. So then they fight. And then she's like, oh, Spider-Man has the ability to basically cave in a mountain. So I'll wait for him to rear up and punch Wolverine, who has a healing factor, and then I'll jump in the way. And so Spider-Man doesn't kill a woman by accidentally dropping off a bridge and letting her neck snap. He caves her head in.
Right.
Oh my god.
But because she literally intentionally puts herself in between his
Right.
fist and a superhero.
That's right.
Yeah, that's,
It's not really his fault.
No, it's not. It's not. But he also gets to go home from Germany with the trauma of feeling and knowing the sound of caving in a woman's head.
Right.
Wow.
Which he really doesn't carry very long. It's I think editorial's damn it.
Oh, that's dark.
Now I
don't
gotta
like
deal with
that.
this. Yeah.
They say time fixes all wounds. Sometimes that time is shorter
Sometimes
than others.
editorial fixes them too. So Spider-Man is swinging around the city. This book is written and drawn by Eric Larson. Now, Eric Larson at the time was the artist on Amazing Spider-Man and was working with David Michelinie. Eric Larson also created The Savage Dragon and has been writing and drawing The Savage Dragon for over 25 years. The Savage Dragon is a nightmare.
Gruesome.
Okay.
It's
Well, it can be.
it's supposed to be fun and whimsical, and also ends up being kind of just this weird method of therapy for the creator, Eric Larson, because he's like, well, I'm writing it and drawing it, and I don't have any Comics Code authority to speak of, so I'm just going to do whatever I want. And so if I want Savage Dragon to have a big old sex scene in the middle of it, or have God himself come down from heaven and fight Satan like it's a WWF match, I'm going to do all those things and more.
Oh, and more.
Oh, so much more. If
Did you
I
say
want...
WWF match? How old are you?
Listen, at least I didn't say WCW. I was going to say ECW, but I was like, no, I'll just say WWF. Well, back then, that would have been a WWF.
Well, that's true
Right,
at
yeah,
the
you got
time.
the Hulk Hogan coming on.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the whole
Macho Man
people in
Randy Savage,
The audience
right?
are like, what the hell are
Jake
you
the
talking
Snake
about?
Roberts?
You mean
Ooh,
WWE?
yeah. Eric Larson was drawing Spider-Man at the time, and he was auditioning for the concept of writing. People were very happy with Eric Larson drawing. Todd McFarlane, of course, set the Spider-Man world on fire with his art, and then when he left, Eric Larson took over, and it was like, oh, this is as awesome, but so totally different. We're all on board. This is dope. And Eric Larson's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You gave Todd a book. Let him write. And so Larson was given an opportunity to do basically one issue split over 2 issues of an original Spider-Man story, which featured Spider-Man and Wolverine. And it was that was Larson trying to juice the numbers. He's like, okay, here's Eric Larson's original Spider-Man story, but if I throw Wolverine in there, people see those sales and they'll be like, oh my God, I gotta give Larson.
Everyone has to buy
It'd
this.
be like, he's the best writer on earth.
Yeah, we'll leave that to history. So Larson is like, I know, I'll do a story that highlights all of my strengths. It'll be original, insane-looking villains. It'll be self-deprecating, fourth wall breaking humor, and action sequences.
I like that humor had a question mark on it.
Yeah. Well, because it's
Spider-Man
like
break the fourth wall? Is that a thing?
no.
Okay.
He's not supposed to.
That's more of a She-Hulk thing back then.
Really?
Oh yeah, She-Hulk was infinitely more subversive and interesting. Like back then, She-Hulk would be like, "This is boring." Like she'd like be. This is under John Byrne. She would be like, "This is boring," and then just walk across the page. Like she'd rip the book. She'd be like, "Get me out of here! This is horrible." There were also a lot of self-referential covers that Byrne would do because Byrne was also like horny as hell. So like, I'm drawing this like 8-foot-tall giantess. I'm gonna draw all the things I want to see her do. So there's sequences of her like jumping rope or holding a beach ball in front of her body or just being naked. You know, there's one original graphic novel that we almost covered when She-Hulk became a show. Thank goodness we didn't jump on the She-Hulk bandwagon. But there's one original graphic novel that Marvel put out in the 80s where they were like, "Oh, no Comics Code Authority." And Byrne's like, "Oh! She's going to be naked the whole book!" And she more or less is.
Of course. That's what you do.
There's a lot more TNA in that one original graphic novel than there is in the entire series of She-Hulk. But we're not here to talk about She-Hulk.
Could I ask a question?
Just the show.
You've mentioned the word Comic Code Authority a couple of times.
What is it?
I am.
Sal's saying this, and James has no idea what the hell you're talking about.
I take for granted.
talking about?
So, okay, right here, there's a little brand.
Oh, yeah.
Approved by the Comics Code Authority. So, in the 50s, there was a book.
Okay.
And it was a hit piece on comic book and other media that was
was a
targeted
pamphlet.
for children. It was a book.
like how to corrupt children.
Yeah,
Step
no.
one.
Yeah, it was more like an anti-pamphlet. It was a book that was written for parents and Congress to try and crack down on the amount of like corrupting materials that are ruining the fabric of society, aka our children. And comic books were one of those problems because comic books were just like, it's just a little magazine that costs like 10 cents, go for it. Congress stepped in and said like, if you don't govern yourselves, we're going to have to. And so the comic books all banded together and they were like, fine, we'll create our own independent governing body called the Comics Code Authority, which is essentially made up of a bunch of like pearl-clutching mothers and teachers who basically would look over every single comic book and decide based on no criteria whatsoever, but their own personal whimsy, what qualified as a Comics Code Authority approved book and what didn't. The fun thing about that was when Stan Lee would find that idea repugnant and would occasionally just be like, I want to do this story about like drugs. You know, like, I'm seeing a lot of drug problems, and also I think our readers are on them, and I want to talk about it. And so the Comics Code Authority is like, well, listen, if you publish this Spider-Man comic about drugs, you know, where Harry Osborn uses acid, that might encourage children to take acid and go on top of roofs and stuff. Like,
Right, because
Why? So that they expect Spider-Man
because they'll
to
think Spider-Man will save them.
save them?
I mean, the reason why the children apparently were jumping off the roofs of their homes wearing a towel around their neck, thinking that because they were wearing a cape like Superman, it would enable them to fly.
Or that if they had an umbrella,
Right, I mean,
it
like
would
Mary
allow them to
Poppins,
float.
they could float.
Yeah.
This makes no sense.
No.
I mean, they're not from Krypton.
Exactly. Like, what? A
Earth's
cape
yellow
make
sun
you
doesn't
fly.
give them superpowers.
Exactly.
But at
Nonsense.
some point,
Yeah, I think the idea was simply that if we mention acid in a comic book, regardless of whether it's portrayed
Yeah.
positively or negatively, someone's going to be like, oh, I want that.
Yeah, of course. Let's create an entire program where we introduce children to all the drugs, what they are, what they're called, and how to get them, and who to find to achieve them.
And how
then
much
put
the street costs are.
Yeah, how much they cost, and then put them in every school in America.
That's a much better idea.
oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That sounds like a dare to
I
me.
will put-
Completely
Right.
different and totally valid to do
Yes,
that.
yes.
And not mention it in any other context.
So those books actually went out without the Comics Code approval, and believe it or not, the world didn't end.
Oh my God.
The book sold fine, and there was some discussion. You know, there was, of course, some pearl clutching, but like at the end of the day, it didn't matter. And then eventually, in like the
Well, and
way
not
too
only that,
late,
Like, if you read it and you didn't understand at the time,
it was whoosh.
yeah, went over your head.
Yeah.
Big deal.
But eventually, what happened was way too late. Like the late '90s, early 2000s, Marvel eventually just went like, "This is an old, stupid, and antiquated system. We don't need it anymore." And they threw it out, and that was the end of it.
Right.
And it just was dissolved. But
Like, does anybody care about this?
Yeah.
And like, nobody was watching.
No.
So
and also like it was already stupid and arbitrary because like what was approved was not consistent with what was not approved.
yeah,
Right.
You know, there was all kinds of TNA and also violence and stuff, and you weren't sure. Like all we were sure of was no naughty words.
right.
We gotta
Like
censor that
TV.
stuff. Yeah, like TV.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like movie ratings where there's at least some standard that things were rated
No.
against to give them.
Eventually, they did introduce a rating system like video games and movies. Superman, famously,
Okay.
when he died, there were some issues where his blood was red, but there were other issues where there was so much blood they were like, make the blood color black. But that allowed us to prevent the book from not being approved by the Comics Code Authority, which is also such a stupid idea, and you think like, why would anyone think that? But cut to Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill, and they were submitting the movie for rating, and the Crazy 88 fight sequence got the movie an NC-17 rating. So they went, well, what if we just switch it to black and white? Boom, R rating, you're fine. And I'm like, really? Because it's
Is
stupid.
nonsense.
It's complete nonsense.
Also arbitrary.
And completely arbitrary.
it
like,
seems like it's not
fake.
arbitrary because they have like gradations. It's not like all or
Right.
not. But like those gradations are actually also arbitrary.
And also, by the way, with movies at least, you could appeal.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you had directors who would go to the rating system board and be like, I feel based on this criteria, like this movie got a PG-13, this movie got an R rating, here's where I fall.
Yeah.
that
And they
kind
were
of
like,
thing.
oh yeah, that sounds good, whatever.
Yeah! And it's more like, I'm sure, well, here's $50,000. Like, okay.
Yeah, Marvel doesn't have that money.
Yeah, no. Marvel had the money, and I don't think Marvel had like the cojones to go.
Or the time.
I don't even
no
believe.
single book was worth that effort.
And I
right?
need to know. I need to know who was the Comics Code Authority. Where did they meet?
We need to name names.
I don't even care, but I want a book that explains to me like how they met, what their criteria was, what was a no-go, what was an all clear. Like I want to know, and I know that there'll never be one because the answer is, like they didn't meet, they
no.
didn't have any
Or they
criteria.
met sometimes, but it was never regular.
But like there was no room where there was a big table
No.
and a bunch of old fogies were just sitting at it, pouring over every week's worth of Marvel and DC books, going, "Oh, I don't know about that." No, like I bet books were shipped to people's houses, and then those people just gave them away as Halloween candy.
Well, I'm sure that was like it was a list of names.
Yes.
And they just took turns, and they weren't paid.
No.
And so it was just whatever person happened to get it, their personal opinion.
Yes.
As to whether it should be allowed or not.
Right.
And that's just it.
Well, I guarantee you, they would be like, they'd see the title, Superman, approved. They
It's
wouldn't even
probably fine.
look through
It
the
just-
book.
Good.
Yep, I didn't see a single nipple. I'm okay.
But that's a lot of blood on page 26.
Oh, gotcha. I don't think so. Nice try. Terrible, stupid. Censorship sucks. So Eric Larson is doing this, and he's like, "All right, I gotcha. Action, maybe some bubage, we got it. But also, I want to make it weirdly self-referential and subversive because, like, you know, I'm writing. I gotta show that I'm good at writing."
Right. And that's what be good at writing
I gotta
means.
flip people's expectations.
Yes. So Spider-Man's swinging around the city, and he's like, "My life is really surreal. You know, if you actually take inventory of my life and the people in it, it's actually kind of weird and convenient, all the things that have occurred to me. You know? Like, right now, as of the writing of this issue, which I don't reference, my ex-girlfriend Black Cat, aka Felicia Hardy, is hooking up with my former high school bully turned best friend Flash Thompson. And the reason why those two are shtupping is because I used to shtup the Black Cat. But she freaked out because when I revealed my identity to her, she didn't like the broken illusion of having sex with a faceless superhero. And so she left for Europe. And in that time, Stan Lee was having Mary Jane and Spider-Man get married in the newspaper comic strip, which had no continuity with the original comic book series. And so to align with the newspaper comic strip, the publisher at the time, Jim Shooter, was like, we need to make sure Spider-Man gets married because of all the media attention that's happening. So out of nowhere, Peter proposes to Mary Jane, no fewer than 3 times. And the third one took, and so Peter and Mary Jane were suddenly and irrevocably married in 1987.
Irrevocably.
Whoa, they were engaged for a while, right?
Nope.
They were not.
They were not. So then Spider-Man married Mary Jane. They had like a honeymoon period of like 2 years before Todd McFarlane and David Michelinie introduced Venom. And then in the introduction of Venom, Black Cat returned and was like, I'd like to get back together with my ex-boyfriend. Finds out, you ain't getting back together with him no more, honey. He is married to a supermodel. And she's like, oh. So she decides, I'm going to break the heart of his best friend the way that my ex-boyfriend broke my heart. What? It's revenge
This
dating.
is what? Well,
Spider-Man is a melodramatic soap opera.
well, yes, but also what?
Yeah, why would anyone think to do that?
Because Black Cat is crazier than a bag full of black cats.
Well, doesn't he know how important Flash Thompson is to him? So if I break his heart, he'll be just as upset as I am right now.
Yeah.
Right.
He won't be able to stand it.
Isn't that
also-
hopelessly cruel to that person who didn't have anything to do with what happened
Men
to
are
you?
disposable. You know, I don't care about Flash. I care about Peter.
Right. I'm a
caring about me.
monster.
Yeah. Well, and what's fun about that whole thing is like you're reading it going like, oh no, because like Flash is like, way
Not Flash
into it.
Thompson.
Poor Flash. Like he got over. You know, he went to war. He went through some hard times.
Right.
And then
Yeah, he was
eventually he turned
redeemed.
into a new leaf. He's a better person now. Over time, Felicia learns, oh my God, like Flash is a good guy, and Mary Jane's not bad either, and maybe I'm the problem. And so she just kind of goes with the relationship. Like, originally she's like, oh man, he's really into me now. Only a few more
just
short weeks
wait
and then
till
I
I
can
break up with
him. But then, like, things start to change, and her heart grows 3 sizes that day. And so she's like, wait a minute, I actually think I like this guy. So she just kind of goes with the relationship until eventually Flash breaks up with her.
Oh.
It's because she won't wear the Spider-Man mask anymore to bed.
That's right. It's revealed that Flash was dating her because he knew she used to be with Spider-Man and Flash used to be the president of the Spider-Man fan club. And he was kind of like, that would be kind of cool. Like, it'd be cool to be like sloppy seconds with Spider-Man. Black Cat is banging Flash Thompson to make Peter feel bad.
Okay.
And
he knows that?
He is aware of it. Oh no, that wouldn't be fun if he didn't know.
Right.
No, like,
oh my God.
Like,
She'll call him in the middle and be like, oh yeah, Flash, it's so good.
No. She doesn't want him to be jealous. She wants him hurt.
Right. So she's like, I'm gonna break up with him.
That's right.
It's coming.
That's right. No, like,
and he'll be hurt. There's nothing.
And
you can
they'll
do
like
to stop
double
me.
date, and then like Flash will go get some cookies, and she'll be like, that'll be the end of it. And Mary Jane is just kind of like, this is the girl before me, huh? These are your
Seems
standards.
kind of unstable.
He's like, yeah, but look at her. So anyway, he's like, that's kind of weird.
Yes.
So he's reflecting on his life in a way he never has before.
He definitely does in these comics so that you can have context for the status quo at the time, because as Stanley says, every comic is someone's first comic.
So he has to think about these things so that you know it, because you didn't read the last issue.
Well, and also, you know, I'm writing comics in the early mid-90s. You know, it's not going to be Shakespeare.
Well,
It's mostly a vehicle to get you to see an awesome action sequence.
Yeah.
So I'm going to fill the page real estate with like action or set pieces, and if it's getting to the action, I'll have characters say something like, "Oh my God, it wasn't always like this. You know, Eddie Brock used to be just some stupid reporter before the alien costume found him, and then they had a mutual hatred for me." And you know, it's like, "Oh, now I know everything about Spider-Man and Venom's relationship until Spider-Man and Venom meet and fight."
Right.
Thank you.
And that way, if you want to just look at the fun pictures, you got to skip all those words.
Well, if you
'cause they
can't
don't
read, you
matter
can still buy the book.
No, but the interesting thing about it is that like he's saying all that stuff so that when he eventually gets to this meeting with Wolverine, where he's like, well, this is crazy.
Yes,
it's in context of everything that's ever happened to him.
Yeah.
So it makes this moment even more hyper real.
Well, that's true, because Wolverine also has his own crazy context that I was like, I don't even know what happened. He's like, also, you know, that's not enough, right? My relationship, sure. What about my professional life as a photographer for the Daily Bugle? Because right now...
Oh, give it up, man.
The guy that I used to fight, whose name is Thomas Fireheart, a.k.a. the Puma, he bought the Daily Bugle from J. Jonah Jameson, and now he's running the Bugle.
A guy named the Puma bought the Daily Bugle?
Well, no,
Like-
the Puma.
First of all,
like the Puma Man.
That's right, Donald Pleasance, the Puma Man, or Puma Man. Puma is the alter ego of Thomas Fireheart. Thomas Fireheart is a wealthy industrialist who also happens to turn into a Puma Man.
I see.
but is called Puma.
Does he turn into a Puma Man, or does he just call himself?
No,
a
he
Puma?
transforms into a man Puma.
Yeah, he's not the Prowler.
Yeah, he's not the Prowler who prowls and breaks into people's houses and looks like Spawn. So Puma is the owner of the Daily Bugle also right now. And my friend and former colleague of the Daily Bugle, Glory Grant, used to date a werewolf.
Oh, I thought you were going to say like a name that I'd heard, so that would that also ties into
like Ben Urich.
A random werewolf.
Well, no, I mean like he was in a Pacta de Lupe, if you will.
The Brotherhood of the Wolf, you see.
He was part of a whole brotherhood of werewolves. And during an outbreak of werewolves or lycanthropy, Glory Grant shot her werewolf lover and killed him.
Oh.
Wow.
Why did Spider-Man care about that?
By accident or on purpose?
It was an accident because what it looks like, and what absolutely was up until the last page reveal of that issue, is he's werewolfing out and going to kill Spider-Man, but then Glory blows him away with a gun. And
to save Spider-Man.
Yeah, and then Spider-Man's like, thank you. And she's like, tearfully confessing, I was aiming for you.
Oh,
I was trying to save my boyfriend from you, you horrible menace, because my boyfriend is a werewolf, and yes, he does feast on flesh during the full moon, but
you're Spider-Man.
You're Spider-Man. He's a good lover, and I don't want to lose him.
Right, but I don't even know who you are.
Right, but irony of ironies, Glory Grant, my former colleague at the Daily Bugle, did try to kill me, but killed her werewolf boyfriend instead. And also, Mary Jane, my wife, used to date Harry Osborn, and Harry Osborn used to be the Green Goblin.
What does that have to do with anything?
And Mary Jane, my wife, used to date Flash, my former bully and now best friend, who is dating my ex-girlfriend, Felicia Hardy. And Mary Jane also used to date Harry Osborn, my former best friend turned Green Goblin. And his dad was the Green Goblin.
Stop with the ands.
Yeah, but that happened a long time ago. Why are you bringing that up?
But Liz
what
Allen...
I'm saying is our group is very incestuous.
Because Liz used to date Flash in high school, but married Harry.
Okay, but is any of this context important for this book?
No. Not at all.
Okay.
I don't understand, because it started out with stuff that's happening right now, but now he's just talking about stuff from like the 70s.
Well, because he's like, because he's like, well, that's what's happening right now.
Well, that's,
but like,
that's teenage drama bullshit.
If you write it all down,
I don't make any sense as a person.
Well, how's
that even possible?
It's also interconnected. It's almost like someone's writing my life in a serialized story fashion. And
it's almost like
it's very self-aware.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's okay.
It's almost like there's 30 years of history packed into like 5 years of my life, which doesn't seem like it would be possible.
That's exactly what he's saying, but he's just not quite up against the fourth wall enough to fall through it.
Right. Like just flirting with it.
Yeah. Flash used to date Betty, who was my ex-girlfriend, and she married Ned Leeds, who turned out to be the Hobgoblin, which I don't know if I buy.
Nah.
But I'm like,
and that's his commentary about that whole thing with who was the Hobgoblin.
He definitely wasn't the Hobgoblin.
Yeah.
But then I see Wolverine over here, and he's perched on a rooftop, and he's supposed to be dead.
What?
In fact, all the X-Men are supposed to be dead.
But why?
Because something happened to the X-Men that killed all the X-Men, but didn't. It made the world believe the X-Men died.
Oh, okay.
And so right now, the X-Men are thought dead by the world.
Unless you see one.
So that's from an X-Men book then.
Yeah, yes. And there's a magic spell on Wolverine so that he doesn't appear in like security footage or photographs to preserve the whole dead thing.
Did he always have that on him, like so he won't show up in like historical records and newspapers and things?
Yeah, no.
Like old-timey photos?
No, just the X-Men drama. So Spider-Man's like, this guy's Wolverine, but Wolverine's dead, and none of my colleagues have ever come back from the dead before. So I have to assume
Wolverine recognizes him.
Wolverine doesn't recognize him. He's not paying attention. Wolverine is doing something else on a rooftop, and Spider-Man sees him, and he's like,
how come Spider-Man recognizes Wolverine if there's supposed to be a spell on him?
That's only affecting technology.
Yeah.
That can permanently capture
people can
him.
see him. People they didn't forget he existed.
No.
They just thought he just thinks
you can't prove he's alive unless you physically have him.
Yeah, right. So it's possible for the X-Men to remain hidden because of this spell.
Yes.
But if someone happens to recognize them, they can be like, hey, what the hell?
Right.
But that's just one guy.
Yes.
So it's not going to break the whole thing.
No. So Spider-Man's pissed because there's this dude running around like a ghoul in Wolverine's costume, and so he's going to kick his ass.
Ah, I see.
Because Eric Larson remembers Peter Parker from when he was a teenager. So this is what he's going to do.
Right. He's just going to fight this poor person who doesn't even have superpowers.
Maybe.
He assumes.
Right. Yeah.
Time to cave in a random person's skull again.
Of course he tries to do.
He punches through this chimney. He thinks that's a regular guy. Don't kill that guy.
Oh, maybe not. Maybe he's just some asshole who got superpowers pretending to be Wolverine.
Maybe he has superpowers. I don't know.
Yeah. So he goes to cave in Wolverine, and Wolverine, of course, immediately dodges because it's so great. And Wolverine's like, "What's the hubbub, bub?" Because of course he says "bub."
Right. He says "bub." That's
but it'd be funnier if I said "hubbub," because then he's like 3 bubs. These are the jokes, folks.
Let's do bad jokes.
Of course they are. So Spider-Man's like, okay, that was impressive that he was able to dodge me. Maybe he is Wolverine, but probably not. All right, well, I'm going to attack him. So then he attacks Wolverine, and Wolverine basically dodges him a bunch of times until Spider-Man lands one punch. I should also point out Wolverine's smoking, which of course he's not allowed to do anymore, but it was the 90s. The Thing, Nick Fury, Wolverine, no one else. Although there was a whole plot line in the 90s during Maximum Carnage and beyond where Mary Jane was so stressed out from her husband's dual identity that she started smoking. Oh. But then she got pregnant.
So then she had to stop.
She had to stop. But now there was some interesting drama for Mary Jane because she's still stressed and she's got the baby.
What's she going to do?
What's she going to do? Is she going to endanger the life of her infant child by smoking? She doesn't, by the way, thank God. But I'm like, what the hell?
What?
I vividly recall a sequence in which she's like, I'll take a few puffs of the cigarette and then I'll crunch them out. There was a belief back then in the 90s where you could actually reverse the effects of your smoke inhalation if you did some crunches afterwards. And I'm like,
okay, it's exercise.
But no. You breathe.
Yeah, but you're still breathing in the charcoal and stuff.
Done.
Yeah, but that's like saying I can offset the effects of this hamburger by doing a couple of crunches.
Yeah, because you'll regurgitate the hamburger.
So, basically, Spider-Man is insane here.
I mean,
right.
he's almost like he's being proven insane.
Hothead.
He's a hothead.
No.
But by modern, normal human standards, he's insane.
My friend Sal died. And I'm walking, or I believe him to have died.
Right.
I don't
have
have
a magic spell on me that allows to photograph.
Right. So okay. And I'm walking down the street and I see someone who looks like Sal. What am I going to do? I'm going to freak out.
I'm going to run at him.
I'm going to go, Sal?
Yeah. No.
Is that you?
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, I'm going to kill that mother.
Yeah, no, you're going to take a run at me because you think that I'm a ghoul.
That's not how.
Okay, Jason.
Wait.
Say you went to Sal's funeral. You experienced a funeral for Sal.
Right.
And Sal is dead.
Sure.
And then like 3 months later, you see a person walking around that looks like Sal.
Right, it's going to freak me
But
out.
I'm going, but that impersonator is going, I'm Sal.
Well,
and I'm the biggest idiot ever.
Okay, so it only works with Wolverine because it's a costume.
It's a costume.
Right? Sal doesn't wear a costume.
It's ghoulish.
Imagine
I do more or less wear a costume.
Sal as someone has always wore a unique costume that only he wore.
Yeah.
And then he dies, and then you see someone wearing that same outfit.
Right. I don't know. It's just not in my nature to take a run at that guy.
Well, that's because you haven't been through the same shit that Peter Parker's been through.
I'm not Spider-Man.
Well, you've also never read a Versus book because that's the conceit behind a lot of them. Not necessarily that exact thing, but people like jumping to an insane conclusion.
That requires them to fight.
Yeah, and then be like,
I'm sorry, I'm new to
this.
this.
Regular people don't just fight each other for no good reason.
Right.
But these guys are wearing costumes, and so if they don't fight somebody,
right.
I want my 25 cents back.
They're wearing costumes, so they get a pass.
They do get a pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, until it gets complicated in the 2000s and stuff and beyond, when they're like, it's pretty irresponsible. These people in costumes be fighting each other in broad daylight on the city street. They're setting a bad example. The wrecking thing, collateral damage, all that stuff. It's like, shut up.
Well, friggin' Alan Moore had to go and publish like Watchmen and be like, if people did this, that'd be really unstable.
Actually, it's rather fascist of them. Batman is a horrible fascist figure. Thanks, Alan. I know.
Yeah. So that's part of it.
Yeah. And also it sold great.
Like, people who wrote the books themselves started calling out how weird it is.
Yeah, and putting it in the very distribution systems that those things were coming from.
Yeah.
So anyway, Spider-Man attacks Wolverine. He's like, Wolverine's dead, and I don't like you running around in his long johns. So Wolverine pops his claws and he goes, it's me, I'm not dead, let's fight some more. But he doesn't say that, he goes, come to Papa. Which I'm like, yeah, that is definitely what Wolverine would say after popping the claws and luring. And Spider-Man's like,
punch in the face full force by Spider-Man, he's probably pretty pissed.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of force that would kill a full-grown woman.
For example.
And so Spider-Man goes, wait a minute. The claws, the attitude, He's not trying. He's waiting for me to attack. He's like, come attack me. So hang on a second. Let me just chill out. Also, my spider sense isn't going off, so he's not like wired to attack me. Maybe I'm just an asshole. Okay, I guess you're real. I thought you were dead. And he's like, I hear that all the time. He goes, oh my God, I'm such a jackass. What is my problem? I always do this.
It's like I'm acting irrationally. I can't stop myself.
It's like there's someone writing me
Yes.
who is like forcing me to do things that don't make any sense.
Yeah, like once the thrall of the writer, like once the fight is over and then he gets his senses back, why did I do that? It's like someone puppeted my body and made me do things against my will.
Someone grabbed my little webs and swung my hands at them.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And he's like, oh my God, I am impulsive. Hey, well, I'm sorry. What are you doing here?
What are you doing here anyway? Not like, how are you not dead? Like,
nope.
This would be my first question.
It's more like, what are you doing?
Oh, I'm watching this really hot redhead chick who's an actress. Figuring out what she'd be like naked.
I'm waiting for her husband to come home and give her a good stupping, you know what I mean? I do this every Friday.
Wait, that's Freaky Friday. I do that with my wife.
I'm gonna kill you.
It's a recent fight.
No, I was gonna say that would make sense. Yeah.
Okay, you've been masturbating to me, having coitus with my wife.
Yeah, there's like, I'm not doing that. What are you? I was just messing with you, man.
Yeah. Also,
Jeez.
Wolverine definitely knows who Spider-Man is under the mask, but later in the book, we're gonna try and preserve that he doesn't because Larson didn't read all of Spider-Man versus Wolverine. So Spider-Man looks across the street because Wolverine indicates a girl has been kidnapped and I'm going to rescue her. And she's being held in this warehouse across the street. Well, the warehouse coincidentally happens to be the very same warehouse that the robber who killed Uncle Ben holed up in that birthed Spider-Man. Spider-Man, okay. So
Isn't that a coincidence?
I knew, as soon as you said warehouse, I knew that's where this was going.
Really?
I knew it. Well, and I looked at that panel, and I'm like,
that's the warehouse.
That is it right there.
That's funny. I looked at that warehouse, and all I could remember was Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's
a weird
another
warehouse on the pier.
Iconic warehouse. Yeah.
So anyway, he's like, oh my God, this is the warehouse my Uncle Ben got shot. This is too much. My former best friend, whose father was the Green Goblin, tried to kill me and murdered my ex-girlfriend, well, my dead girlfriend, Gwen Stacy, who then became the Green Goblin and now owns the building that I am living in with my wife. Like, that is convenient. But me jumping into the warehouse where I first became Spider-Man, like, that is too much.
I mean, at this point, just be like, all right, Wolf, it's all yours.
Right. No, he's like,
Is this the rest of the book? He's just going to keep mentioning weird coincidences that have happened throughout Spider-Man. This is just a secret like primer for all of Spider-Man's history.
Right, up till this point.
Right.
Sounds like
kind of.
Because that's so far what it's been.
Yeah, no. Well, we've only gone 3 pages of this book.
And nobody keeps going back to it.
I thought this was going to be a short book.
I mean,
we've already been here an hour.
But look at all these words.
I know. Yeah, but we haven't actually even talked about the book for most of the book.
Well, there's also only so many warehouses.
Right.
And you swing around New York City all the time. You're bound to run into it again at some point.
Right, but like, I have to go in there and I have to go do some daring do like I did the first time.
You don't let Wolverine do it.
No, I'm not gonna. No, it's like when a cop sees another cop in action. Like, I have to slow down and join them up.
I see.
You know, it's professional courtesy.
I mean, you can ask, hey, do you want help?
There's a group of evil mutants that kidnapped her. She's a potentially like super powerful mutant. And her limitations have not yet been determined, so she may be.
Oh, she could be Omega level.
Omega level, but they don't start saying that until much later.
Right,
so
that's
like,
not a thing yet. Okay.
We don't use that term yet. So
She's gonna be at a power level 6.
yeah, but she could be an Omega level mutant. And he just goes, bad guys want her and kidnapped her dad, hoping to force her to do their bidding. And he's like, well, she's an innocent girl. We got to stop them. Let's go. And so.
Wait, they kidnapped her or they kidnapped her dad?
They kidnapped both. They kidnapped the
both
girl.
of them. Okay.
And I think the idea is they kidnapped the girl, and then they were like, she's not doing anything. Let's kidnap her dad, and then we'll strong arm the dad into making her do what we want.
Whatever her powers are.
Yeah.
Like, show us her powers.
Yeah, or just use them to our advantage.
I see.
I mean, kidnapping the dad was like a 4th step. We've kidnapped her stuffed animals first.
Yeah.
Then we kidnapped her dog.
Here's what I'm thinking. Now, there's another thing called the Marvel style. And the Marvel style was essentially how Stan Lee was able to put his name on so many comic books. So the idea was that an artist would plot out the story and then draw the book. And then Stan Lee would fill it with all of his nonsense. Everything they would do was determined by the artist, but everything they said and all the expository narration and dialogue was provided by the writer. And that's how Dan Slott currently does comic books, and it's how no one else does them. But I sincerely believe that that's how this was done. That Eric Larson had an idea.
Well, didn't he write it?
He did. So I think what I think what
Oh,
happened
but he
was,
didn't plan what they were going to say.
no, I think Larson drew it with an idea that it was going to be subversive and Peter was going to make a lot of self-references, but also he just wanted to be cool looking.
Right.
So there's this beautiful panel of Wolverine, and he's saying something that would not warrant this awesome a panel.
Yeah.
But it's because I wanted to draw Wolverine in this awesome panel, and so here it is.
And I figured out I'd figure out the words later.
Yeah. Well, and I know what they I have a loose idea of what they're saying.
Right. So and they barely matter anyway.
Exactly. So they spring into action, and Wolverine's like, okay, we're here, and then they have a gun trained on them. Oops. I think we got the drop on them. Oh, click. No, we don't.
So both of their superhuman senses failed to detect that gun.
I believe Peter tries to tell Wolverine, but Wolverine tells him to be quiet. He was like, Wolverine. What he should do is react, but what he doesn't do is say anything.
Right.
Yeah, what we should do is web the guy immediately.
Yeah. Now that, of course, was like 4 pages, and they're like, "And part 1." And I'm like, "Part 1?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's right. Marvel Comics Presents. It's part of like a bunch of other stories all slapped together." So, Spider-Man and Wolverine immediately are attacked by not what looked like just a guy with a gun, which it definitely was when he first drew it, but actually a warehouse filled with wall-mounted laser cannons that are just attacking them.
Well, they're laser cannons that drop down from the wall. They're all pointing up at first, then it goes click.
Yep. Yeah, they all. Yeah,
I mean,
and one of them was right by their head. But now they're springing out of the way, and they're just coming out of the walls. They're coming out of the goddamn walls.
Okay.
Also, there's I'm not going to say it. There's an off. There could be a potentially off-color joke.
Oh.
And knowing the direction that Savage Dragon will go,
It definitely
is. Spider-Man says, "How do I get into these things? 1 minute I'm merrily swinging along, hoping to get home in time for some of Mary Jane's ... tuna casserole." And I'm like, I think I know what you're saying. I can read between the lines here.
Yeah.
But he says, ugh, so maybe the joke here is, she was going to make tuna casserole and he doesn't care for it.
He doesn't like it.
But I know what he's saying.
But he picked
all know what
tuna
he's saying.
casserole.
He's saying tuna casserole. It's not it's
It's like he's like, well, what do I say instead of the thing I was going to say?
But you're thinking it. You don't have to worry about censoring yourself. But you're in a comic book that's approved by the Comics Code Authority, so we know. But also, Spider-Man would never be like, man, why am I teaming up with Wolverine? 1 minute I'm swinging home, hoping to plow my wife. Which he does regularly during
thanks,
his time.
Mr. Green.
So Spider-Man webs up all the guns, makes them into a big gun web ball, just smashes the rest of them.
It's a lot of guns.
It's a lot of guns.
Maybe Wolverine's
like hundreds of guns.
You could have just let them shoot me. I'd have been fine.
Yeah, but you gotta heal. You gotta get
and it hurts.
It does hurt. He doesn't want to deal with it. So, but all the firing, causes the structural integrity of the floor that they're in to collapse. And when they do, they bump into the evil mutants that Wolverine was referring to. Okay. And these are all original characters that were invented by Eric Larson that look exactly like characters that Eric Larson will use later in both an Amazing Spider-Man book that he did not write, but also his entire run on Savage Dragon. Everyone here looks like a Savage Dragon character, including this Savage Dragon character, which has no name because Larson doesn't want to give it away, and so he calls him in an interview that someone gave later, the Savage Finn. Because he has a fin like Savage Dragon.
Right. Okay. He's also brown instead of green.
He's only brown because they miscolored it. Because the colorist
like
didn't know.
Camouflaged for the floor.
They didn't know there was a character there, so they just colored the floor around his lines.
But they got the fins!
Because they recognized it afterwards. They're like, oh no, it's a guy. Oh, but I've already colored the floor part, so here's some fins.
Yeah, just put green over the fin
I think
part.
Actually his power is camouflage. I think he can actually change colors. But he is green.
Like an iguana or a fish.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. He can camouflage, but he can't camouflage his fins.
No, not the fins. Well, that way he's still got those awesome fins.
So it's kind of like a pretty useless camouflage.
Yeah.
It makes him slightly harder to see.
Right. So they encounter the leader of this group called Critical Mass. He's called that because he's fat, you see.
He's not just fat. He's as fat as Fat Neil.
That's right.
He's so fat he's about to start a nuclear chain reaction and blow up the whole city.
That's right. He's so fat he's got his own gravitational pull. So
is he strong? What is his fat enable him to do?
I mean, he shoots lasers out of like weapons that he has mounted on his wrists.
Oh,
okay.
It's not really a power.
No.
It's like technology.
No, it's not. Don't worry.
I mean, maybe
you'll
he's so
never
heavy.
see him again after this story.
He has the batteries for those weapons inside of him.
That's true. But also Whiplash and Bloodlust, who are here as well. Those characters will show back up in the Amazing Spider-Man book, but they'll be part of a new force called like Femme Fatales or something. And it's just a group of like distinctly looking Eric Larson female characters who try to kill Spider-Man.
Okay, he just wanted to draw him here.
He just wanted to draw him.
I need some bad guys. Here we go.
And I need to name them quick. Whiplash, and just coincidentally, Whiplash wasn't going by Whiplash at this time. Whiplash is an Iron Man villain, but not this one. And Bloodlust is just like, oh, have we really not invented anyone named Bloodlust? That's kind of amazing.
Sweet, I got it. That's mine.
Mine. And also the Savage Finn, but we didn't bother to name them. And also they hired a random regular person burglar to kidnap the dad, and so he's there and he's dressed exactly like the burglar from Amazing Fantasy 15 that Spider-Man fights, who killed his uncle.
Right.
But don't worry,
because it's an homage.
It's an homage. It's not the burglar, because we already did a story where we actually did meet the burglar, and we did a 30th anniversary story where we meet the burglar's son, who also dresses just like the burglar did when he killed Uncle Ben. But
I just assumed that, like, when the burglar left, he left his clothes in this warehouse.
I mean, the police don't strip people of the clothes that they are in when they arrest them and then leave them behind in the scene of crime.
Depends.
Well, this time they did.
Yep. I do love.
And they're like, oh well, we have this spare outfit. Try it on.
Yep. So they engage the villains led by Critical Mass. I love this sequence where Spider-Man needs to get out of the way. And normally what Spider-Man do is he'd trust his spider sense and use his spider agility and speed to just jump out of the way. But he's got Wolverine here, who's like a 5'3" homunculus.
So I might as well just throw Wolverine at them.
Well, he throws him out of the way. He just goes, hold on your cookies, Wolverine. And he uses his adhesion powers to stick to Wolverine with his hand and then just does his acrobatics. So he just carries Wolverine along with him, which I kind of really appreciate. It's kind of fun. And it's just a big fight scene, you know?
I thought it was going to be a reverse fastball special.
No, that'd be really cool. But it's not.
But it's not that.
Wolverine has an internal monologue where he's fighting Bloodlust, and he's just like, oh man, I hesitate for a second because it's a woman. And I normally wouldn't hit a lady. And I'm like, you literally in Spider-Man vs. Wolverine were going to murder a lady. You don't normally hit a lady. You don't
innocent lady.
Yeah.
Even.
Oh, she was an assassin.
Well, that's true.
But yeah.
Oh, she'd done terrible things.
Exactly.
Should have it coming.
So Spider-Man's like, oh my god, he's wrapped up in all of Whiplash's coils. And he's like, which by the way, this is copyright infringement to another Marvel villain called the Constrictor, who has the exact same powers. But anyway.
Whoa, we need separate copyright-free powers now?
I mean, it's a little reductive, is all I'm saying.
Doesn't Whiplash also have, like, whips?
Yeah.
Like Whiplash the villain? So it's also, like, derivative of that?
Well, yeah, but they don't, like, blast out. They're not retractive.
Right, it's slightly different.
Oh.
That's just Omega Red, though.
Yes. And does this person have red hair and kind of a ponytail? Yeah. Never mind.
Don't worry about that.
So Spider-Man is about to get attacked by Critical Mass, and he's like, oh my god, that's Arnie Gunderson, who was in my 4th grade class.
Oh?
Of course.
Because, like, every adventure I have is a convenient bullshit story that is connected to my personal life in some way.
Right.
Like I said in the first page of this book. And I'm like, no. Now, Arnie Gunderson, that's a joke. He's like, this is stupid. Like, oh no, it's my father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommates.
What does that make us?
Absolutely nothing. But that's what he's basically doing. Yeah. Oh no, it's Arnie Gunderson, my 4th grade bully or something. Man, he didn't used to be this fat. But like, I guess maybe his fatness is the mutation, like Blob.
The trouble is that Flash won out for the Spider-Man fan club president.
Well, no,
and Arnie's like, no.
Flash was the high school bully. See, after Peter graduated 8th grade, Flash took over bullying Peter Parker.
Yeah, but Gardy was still there.
Yeah.
Was Peter Parker just bullied his entire childhood?
I mean, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's actually an amazing, it's one of my first Spider-Man comics I've ever read. Tells the story of Peter dealing with bullies like pre-high school, pre-powers, when he went to like a camp and he was like basically just attacked by 6 kids. And he just remembers there were 6 of them and 1 of me, and I don't know what it was, but I went crazy. And when the counselor showed up, they had to pull me off of them.
Oh.
And it's just like, it was Jerry Conway's way of like being like, this is what, like, when you push Peter Parker to his limits, he is unstoppable. You know?
And sometimes savage.
Yeah, and it's like, and that was in his battle with, ironically enough, the Puma. And Puma was like, yeah, I have, you owe me a blood debt and I need to be repaid, and so we will fight to the death. And Peter's like, how about just leave me alone? And so Fireheart, for his troubles, like makes Peter go to Arizona, and they have a big fight in the desert. It's a really cool scene, and also quintessentially un-Spider-Man-like. It's like one of my first Spider-Man comics ever, and Spider-Man is fighting the Puma, a like 6th tier Spider-Man villain. And by the way, I like Puma, and I think Thomas Fireheart's a cool character, and he's actually the first character to identify the symbiote was an organic being.
Oh.
But I digress.
Yeah, but he's also in Arizona. He's like, you can't web swing out here.
You can't web
What are
swing
you
out
going to
there.
latch onto?
Well, like, and so I'm just reading a Spider-Man
can't
comic for the first time, and Spider-Man is in the desert fighting Puma. And at one point, like the shaman makes Peter and Thomas like go before the fires and do like a vision quest, and their totemic animal spirits blast out of their bodies and attack each other. And what they realize is that their spirits are so evenly matched that if they come to blows, they will inevitably destroy each other. So, like, there will be no victor in the battle between Spider and Puma.
You're telling me that there is a Spider totem and a Puma totem?
There's a
fight each
totem
other?
for everything.
Yeah, he was saying the Spider-Man Puma book was anti-violence, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like, but you still get the fight. It's just that because these two are
Yeah, but we still
hotheads-
want to have the fight in
Well,
there.
yeah, but because like they're thick.
Yeah, but you shouldn't do this.
Yeah, right. Well, like
You shouldn't do this, but I'm
that,
gonna keep doing it
reader.
every issue.
Yeah, well, the book has them fight. They fight for you, so you learn the lesson,
Right.
And they suffer the consequences.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
like
the consequences of being awesome and being married to a redheaded Mary Jane.
it's undermined.
It's like
the message is undermined by the fact that they keep putting these people into situations where it's like, well, yeah, but sometimes you have to fight them.
What lesson of the story about the 6 bullies is like, yeah, sometimes you do have to fight.
Yeah.
Like sometimes there's 6 of them and 1 of you. What are you gonna do?
Right, punch your way out.
Maybe.
Even though for most people that's completely unrealistic.
Sometimes you're
and
going to be
definitely
savage. You have
should not
to
do that.
bite a kid's ear off.
Yeah, like sometimes, yeah, but like other times, like you got. There's a reason why it's a fight or flight response.
Right.
Your body will respond in one way or another. The adrenaline doesn't know the difference.
Yeah.
It's about you. Anyway, the Savage Finn is like, all right, kid. You know, the child that's like got Omega level nebulous powers.
Right.
Is like, make them stop, or I'll have that guy over there that looks like the guy who killed Uncle Ben kill your dad. And so she just like emits a crazy psychic wave, and that knocks out Spider-Man and Wolverine. And so then the evil mutants that were going to kill them are now going to kill them.
Oh, thank God you can like focus that wave.
Wait. Why didn't you just use the wave to knock out her captors?
Let me ask you this. Yeah, I think it's because she's a stupid child.
Yeah.
And also, the burglar has a gun trained on her father's head.
Yeah, so it's like he can shoot him before the wave would get to him.
I don't
Or maybe
know.
even
It's
if
not
she
worth
hits
the
him with
risk.
the wave,
She's a child.
He'll-
She's,
Yeah, he'll pull the trigger.
Yeah, well,
like
also,
instinctively.
she's not trained by Charles Xavier yet. Like she doesn't know how to
Yeah,
use his powers.
and he's screaming in her ear.
And he
so-
looks like this.
Yeah, so she's like,
Hey,
she's just
he's
doing
green
it
now.
Yeah. Yeah, this fish man's like, come on, your dad's gonna die. Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
I
jeez.
can't focus. I'm like, oh, you fool.
Yeah.
Oh, this is, yeah.
Yeah, it's not gonna be like, wait a second.
but at the same time, she
What
doesn't
if
aim it.
instead of doing the thing you're screaming
Blam,
at
your
me-
dad's dead. Like, yeah. So while Spider-Man and Wolverine are unconscious and the villains are all just like, you know, wallowing in their own crapulence, the burglar-looking guy goes, let me kill the wall crawler. I owe him for what he did to my brother. Oh my God, this is the
No.
burglar's brother,
Brother.
and where's his burglar's brother's clothes?
Well, he is.
That's a good outfit that just gets passed around.
I mean, it's
That's
a
not
classic.
Really...
He's wearing it in honor of his fallen brother.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I've
And
worn this
Dad.
outfit, and Dad. I've worn this
Dad.
outfit every single day since Spider-Man killed them.
Spider-Man
It
did
didn't
not
them
kill your brother.
In prison, sent him to jail.
His brother is dead, though. He did die in like the
Oh.
return of his brother story, but like who cares? So then,
He does.
This
It's his
guy-
brother.
well, yeah, but this guy sucks, and who cares? And he's never brought up again. So then Spider-Man and Wolverine like spring into action and kick ass in this amazing looking panel. I love Eric Larson's art to a point. I think it looks great. I just like seeing them fight. It's cool. Here they go.
So that move
Wait.
to knock them out didn't really help.
I was
they
just gonna
were
say, they
knocked
just-
out, and then they kick ass.
And then
Thank
get
God
back
they have
up.
a healing factor.
Well, we only have a few more pages
They
left.
got knocked down, but they get up again.
But it's like the
Yeah,
next.
you're never gonna keep them down.
It's the next panel.
Yeah, no, but
It works for like a half a second.
yeah, it does. But it ended at the end of that issue of Marvel Comics Presents.
But this pack
Right.
gets to wallow in their own crapulence for a minute.
We need
That's
one.
true, they get one panel where they're lording over them.
Well, and you had to wait for the next issue.
Right. You're like, oh no, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
It's
like a
Flash
commercial
Gordon
break
shit.
in a
What's
cartoon.
gonna happen?
Or that,
they're
yeah.
immediately back up and fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe the girl only used a very weak wave to cosmetically take down Spider-Man and Wolverine, knowing that they're her salvation.
Right. And that would allow them to get the drop on their captors, who will be lulled into a false sense of security.
Yeah, maybe while she screamed and knocked them out, she also whispered to them, hey, I'm only going to pretend to knock you out. Just fall down.
Yeah, just pretend to be knocked out and then spring into action and kick ass.
It's just a trick!
I mean, if this was written by Stan Lee,
then
there would be a bubble saying, like, I knew that she admitted that she was going to pretend to admit a thing.
No,
that
Spider-Man was said,
down.
good thing she told us psychically to pretend to be knocked out.
Yeah,
no, right now he should be
psychic powers for
but
her.
But also,
right
if it was written by Stan Lee, this person would have said, "Oh my God, Wolverine's slashing me with his adamantium claws," because Stan Lee loved to explain what was happening, even though you could see it happening.
Yeah.
I hope it's not my face. Oh no, it is my face. How crazy is it that we were just knocked out, but we're getting up again? Thank God we have those healing factors.
Well, I mean, also that.
You know, as far as Larson's concerned, who cares? We've already turned the page. So
you're still talking about how they were.
Why are you focusing on this?
Ago,
you guys.
Look how awesome that is.
Yeah, look. Once you see Wolverine slash this person in the face,
and we do have red blood there.
Well, yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's only a little bit. And you can't tell where it's coming from.
Right?
I mean,
is it blood or is it her hair? I can't even tell.
Is it ketchup?
Yeah, you don't know.
I just flipped through the book and I didn't notice it.
So,
it's the reality.
The Spider-Man saves the little girl. He pushes the Savage Finn out of the way, and for his troubles, also breaks his nose. Just like wham.
Nice.
So he gets to talk phonetically like his nose is broken. Meanwhile, you know, Wolverine is going to jump and kill this burglar guy. He's like, say your prayers while his adamantium claws are
the
extended.
Uncle Ben burglar person?
Yeah, the burglar brother.
Okay.
And so he goes, I've got a gun, watch out! And it's like, that's all you have. It's supposed to be funny, because it's like, no. But then, you know, Fat Neil or whatever.
Well, I have these 6 knives, that beats your gun.
Yeah, like, and a healing factor, and I'm a superhero, and I've been at this like 150 years longer than you have.
I mean, that's a fantastic V for Vendetta reference right there.
That's true. So then,
what you have are bullets.
And the hope that I don't kill you before you've reloaded. So then Wolverine is blasted away from the burglar by critical mass. So he says, you won't stop me, I'm a bad dude. And you're like, okay, so like, is it like he was in the, okay, Spider-Man wasn't just saying like, oh no, we fought in 4th grade. No, he's been a 4th grader for 20 years. Like,
I'm a bad dude.
I'm a bad dude. Nah, and it's like, no, that's just what people say. So then
he's Eric Cartman, if he never had any comeuppance.
How dare you call me that? I'm Big Bone. So then we just recreate the panels of Spider-Man taking down the burglar from Amazing Fantasy 15. Just gonna redraw them.
What?
And then Spider-Man's gonna knock out the burglar and realize when he sees his face that this burglar is actually Peter Parker's dentist.
What?
That's the joke. The joke is everyone I've ever met is connected to my other superhero identity in some weird and seemingly arbitrary fashion.
But this makes no sense.
No. Well, it's like, so the burglar that killed Uncle Ben had a brother who got into dentistry and moonlights as a hired goon who also wears, in deference, his past burglar brother?
You know, dentists famously don't make much money, so be side hustles.
Dentists infamously,
definitely would risk it all on this insane plan that has no payoff, as near as I can tell.
No, there's no money in this.
Maybe he only went to dental school because his brother or his father pushed him into it.
Right.
And since Spider-Man took care of them, he's like, well, that's it. I have a vendetta against him.
That's right.
But I'm still going to pay for my life of crime with my dentistry.
You gave up your practice and everything. It's just, anyway. So
that's awesome.
Spider-Man says some
stupid.
Spider-Man says some insane things he would never say to not bloodlust. Yeah, bloodlust.
Bloodlust. Yeah.
Like, I am the Lizard King.
More or less. He says, I'm telling you, honey, this hormones thing is getting really out of hand. I mean, look at yourself. You're unkempt. You're BO. Ugh. And a little work, and you could be one good-looking babe.
Oh.
And I'm like, Spider-Man would never sexually harass anyone in a fight. That's not it. That's one of the things. That is the thing where I'm like, no. Out of this whole book, this is the most out of character thing he says. It is something that Savage Dragon would say, though.
Mm-hmm. No, he'd say it because I have him saying it. Look, he's saying it right there.
And maybe he's saying it to goad her into getting blinded by rage. But even still, Spider-Man wouldn't stoop to that level.
Yeah, he doesn't need to. He's friggin' Spider-Man. He's gonna beat her anyway.
That's what Black Cat would say.
Yeah, maybe. So Spider-Man's fighting her, but then Savage Finn is like, all right, stop. But he's got a broken nose, so it's supposed to be dumb. He's like, stop it, all of you. It's over. Walk away, or I'll blow a hole in her head the size of Nebraska. And so then the girl, under this threat that is eerily similar to the one she was under before, except the gun was on her father's head, not her own.
Right.
This causes her to unleash a psychic wave of power, which sets off Spider-Man's spider sense. So he jumps out the window, which seemingly annihilates everyone in the room.
Including her dad?
Yeah, everyone is reduced to skeletons, and the warehouse is exploded.
Okay, well, that's a satisfying ending.
All's well that ends well.
Not.
No, it is not. But I should also point out that when Spider-Man and Wolverine went into the warehouse, Spider-Man set up his SLR camera, which of course he does when he's in his dual identity. See, Spider-Man also sells pictures of himself to the Daily Bugle for profit, which of course is deliciously ironic because he works for J. Jonah Jameson, who hates Spider-Man, so haha. But anyway, he
just the mask.
That's right. So he puts up this camera, and Wolverine's like, "What are you doing?" And Spider-Man's like, "Oh, I have a photographer friend, and I do this for him."
His name's Peter Parker.
Right. And I'm like,
I need to make a living.
Wolverine knows who you are. You don't need to pretend. But maybe it's because Spider-Man's like, well, I'm not even 100% sure that you are Wolverine. So he's...
You're supposed to be dead.
There's been no digital proof of you online.
I can't trust... You are who you say you are.
Right, but Spider-Man does recover the camera. So when he goes home and develops the film, he goes over it and he's like, this is weird. There's no shots of Wolverine in this fight. And there's no visible shots of my dentist being in this fight. And
what?
I'm wondering if this actually even happened at all. Like, did I just have a complete fever dream and then end up at home?
But the other people are in the pictures.
Yes, they are.
So it did happen.
It did happen, but aspects that would make it extraordinary are not featured in my random camera shot.
The things that he was saying the whole time of like, isn't this crazy? Isn't that crazy? Isn't this such a coincidence?
There's no proof that my life is
that
convenient and
actually
weird.
did happen.
Yeah.
That's very bizarre to add in.
And was Wolverine there? Was Wolverine even there? Was he a ghost? And am I going crazy? And he's like, there were no bodies. This is weird. Like, Harry, his dad, my old costume came to life. Professor Warren, my college professor, became the Jackal and cloned me and my girlfriend. And then I had to throw down a smokestack. And Jean DeWolf's brother became a bad guy. And Liz's stepbrother showed up. And Gloria Gant's boyfriend was a werewolf. And now my Flash's girlfriend is my ex-girlfriend. And Arnie and my dentist. And it's all too much. Mary Jane, am I losing my mind?
And Mary Jane's just slowly backing out the room being like,
look at her.
I gotta make a run for it.
She's just like, he's like, Mary Jane, you're the only person who can keep me tethered to reality before I lose my mind. Please, Mary Jane, are you real too?
Hi. This might be a bad time, but here's the divorce papers.
Yeah.
I contacted a little demon of my own called Mephisto.
Yeah. So Mary Jane basically says, like, I'm real, you're real. You're just stressed. Calm down. I love you. So that's how the Spider-Man story ends. Spider-Man has a complete nervous breakdown, and Mary Jane is like...
For no reason at all.
Right, and she's like, have you drank anything today? Like...
Well, you know, I might be a little dehydrated.
Right. Yeah.
How's your blood sugar?
Right. Would you like a Snickers? So then we check with Wolverine. Now, Wolverine flies to Kansas with the girl and her father.
What?
Okay, so he didn't get vaporized.
Even if no one got vaporized, the girl projected the image of vaporization to Spider-Man.
Okay.
Just to get rid of him?
Just to make him feel crazy.
Well, to make everyone believe that the little girl and the father were dead, so that they can escape.
Is she the one that made the X-Men dead?
No.
No,
she's a completely invented character for the story, and we never see her again.
What about the fat guy and the...
Yeah, they don't die. They
don't
look
die
like
either.
they died, but they didn't.
They were probably just knocked out or whatever.
Yeah, we can say that that guy died because he doesn't appear ever again. But the Fems don't, so let's assume they all... the whole thing was fake.
Here's the thing. They're not dead until we say that they're dead later on.
That's right.
Okay.
Which they're not.
Why do we need Spider-Man to think that they're dead? Do they need to go into hiding from the world? I don't understand.
Well, yes, they do need to go into hiding because, like, this girl's powers, she's way too powerful. She'd be dangerous if she's left alive. So, like, we need to make sure that, like, because also, you know, these crazy Eric Larson characters, like, they kidnap this poor girl, they kidnap the dad.
They'll keep trying to find her.
They'll never stop. So we're going to create a new identity for you guys. We're moving to Kansas. We're get you out of here.
Also, I have to change the identity. I have to make sure that Spider-Man doesn't think his dentist is a criminal because it's so hard to find a dentist in New York.
It's so true. Like, you know. I assume Peter does switch dentists regardless of the fact he has no photographic proof to say that his dentist was a villain.
He just walks into the dental office one day and be like, here, put on this hat. Nah, I can't come back here ever again.
Bam! Just knocks him right out.
Wait a minute. He would go to the dentist, and his dentist would not be vaporized. So then he would know that people weren't actually vaporized.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right. But I think
But his dentist was never there in the first place,
If it were
apparently.
me, I would just stop going to that dentist.
Yeah.
I would
I
risk it.
would never go there again.
Yeah,
I guess that would drive him more crazy
Yeah.
if he did go. He'd be like, but you were vaporized. Oh my God.
Yeah, and
it
what
didn't
would,
happen.
And what would the dentist have to say? You know, but like this girl is able to knock people unconscious. Maybe she projected the image of vaporization, then knocked everyone unconscious except for Spider-Man who left,
Right.
and then moved
wiped
them.
their memories.
Right, yeah.
So
Or
he doesn't
whatever.
remember that he was there.
Exactly. So Wolverine uses his vast resources to set up new identities for this father and his daughter, and then move them to Kansas and hide them away.
I'm sorry, vast resources? Is he rich?
I mean, like he's influential. He's got a million friends. You know, he's
I assume
Wolverine.
he just called Professor X, and Professor
Yeah.
X did all this.
Probably.
I assume he just threatened someone with his knife hands.
Yeah, I mean, he could have done. I mean, one potato. Like he could have gone to the DMV and set that up, or he could have had Professor X use his psychic powers to go to the DMV and set that up, and have Wolverine just pick it
Right.
up. Who knows?
So, is this a thing that Wolverine does?
Right, like he
Or is this
disappears friends of his.
Or is this like
benevolent?
insane?
This is
This
insane.
this would never happen.
I mean, like it's not beyond the realm of possibility for Wolverine.
Okay.
But also, like, it is insane.
Okay, because I'm like, this feels like a TV show
It is,
or
and
something.
here's why
like,
it's
like
even
an
more
episode of the
insane.
A-Team
You're-
or something. It's just like,
This is
what a
the-
weird ending.
And this is why it's even more insane, because Wolverine's talking to him and he says, like, you'll be safe here. You know, with that disguise, your own mother wouldn't recognize you. And the dad goes, haha, holy moly, you could be right, but I'm an orphan, remember? And the daughter now suddenly looks a lot older and can coincidentally like Mary Marvel from DC Comics' Shazam series, because the identity that he gets is C.C. Beck, the creator of Captain Marvel, who died while Eric Larson was making this comic and wanted to do an homage. So this guy, the dad, looks and acts and sounds like Captain Marvel and gets the identity of C.C. Beck and goes to Kansas. And it's like, okay.
Did he make the book end that way so he could make that reference?
Yes.
Huh.
Yeah.
That explains why it's so weird.
Right? Well, because it isn't
Why
tethered to any...
Why it's
like-
unnecessarily complicated and has nothing to do with the rest of the book.
Right, like, I bet he killed everybody. And then this is
Yeah.
the last page of the book.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, C.C. Beck died.
Let me just change the
And
entire...
the estate of C.C. Beck is like, thank you, Eric Larson.
I'm sure they were aware it happened.
And they were like, weird.
Weird.
Or I don't really get it.
No,
What-
you're
what-
good.
What's
You-
happening?
You
in
can
this
remove
book
that,
now?
actually. I don't give you permission to do that.
I don't get this either. This is a weird book.
Isn't it
Deeply
weird?
weird.
But quintessentially back issues,
That's true.
which is why we did it.
That is true.
I mean, like, listen, Wolverine versus
They're
Spider-Man.
all skeletons. How does he have pictures of
He
skeletons?
captured the vapor moment. How is that possible?
right. if it-
Exactly.
She projected it, and she.
It's not projecting it onto
I mean,
film.
Well, but her projection, she has the power that she could her projections become reality.
Yeah. Well, and maybe it's like a dual thing. If honestly, if I didn't know about the Captain Marvel homage, the fact that the guy's nickname is Beck could imply that he's somehow connected to Quentin Beck, the Mysterio Master of Illusion character. But he's not.
But it's not that.
But it's not that. It's an homage to a creator for a company that isn't Marvel. But it's called Wolverine vs. Spider-Man, so people are going to watch this episode.
Excellent.
You know, just like if you call a movie Deadpool and Wolverine, you're going to make $1 billion.
Apparently.
That's all it took? Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay.
So,
So I'm never doing another show with you guys.
So this was a mistake.
Yeah, I thought it'd be kind of fun that like I'd be like one of the guys, but I don't want to be.
turns out,
I don't want to do this.
I want to go back to doing stupid Star Trek books.
Welcome to Every Week I'm Back.
Listen, whoa. Sometimes we also do really good books.
Sometime.
That's true. Like we did that Terminator book.
Right?
That
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
that was fun.
That was
Yeah, I'm still
really
waiting for
great
more
book.
Saga.
Yeah. You'll be waiting forever.
If this was your first book, your
Right.
first Spider-Man,
Oh my God.
you would never pick up another
No,
one.
in 1995,
You'd be like-
no, you definitely wouldn't, because you'd be like, what the? Oh
No,
my
no,
God.
but-
Spider-Man
What is all
sounds
this?
incessantly complicated.
Yeah.
Sal,
But isn't he?
the little girl, she's the Lord of Illusions.
There's an ad for the Clive Barker hit film Lord of Illusions.
I don't even remember.
We saw it, but I remember nothing about it. I think Scott Bakula is in it.
Oh, is that who that is?
I believe it is.
Wow.
And it'll say at the bottom.
And I mean, back in the day, if I had known, I would have watched it because I was a sucker for
Scott
Bakula.
Bakula.
There you go. Top billing.
Kevin L. O'Connor. Famke Jensen.
Oh, now you sold me. You mean, if it's 1995, that hot chick from that one episode of TNG? You know, the... I believe the episode's called Duty, in which she is born from like an egg and made as a ambassador present to cement two other factions, and then she imprints on Picard instead and becomes his perfect mate. And then because she imprinted on Picard, she has his sense of honor and duty, and so even though she didn't imprint on the like leader that she was supposed to be the perfect mate for, and instead became Picard's perfect mate, she has his ability to understand duty and honor, and so she just lives that life with that guy until
oh my God,
presumably one of them dies.
Yeah, no,
oh my God.
that is a heck of an episode.
It was a really good episode,
right?
But
And
also kind of complicated, like problematic. I'm like,
oh, just a bit.
Yeah,
yeah, but at the end you're like,
what? No!
Yeah.
There's so many episodes.
She was also hatched from an egg. She's like, what, a day old?
Oh yeah, that too. Don't.
let's
not gloss over. Let's not do the whole. There's a term for it. Of
born
like,
hot.
Yeah, I think it is. It's born sexy.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, because those are those terrible Wolverine boots that I hate.
Oh, I didn't know you were such a.
Well, because they're so huge and impractical.
Well, they're not really that.
Because they mimic his head.
Yeah. Is his head...
That isn't practical, yeah.
Are his head flag things actually that big?
No.
Or is that Eric Larson?
It's Eric Larson
taking license.
Taking license.
Look at this.
I mean, they're pretty big, but Larson is always exaggerating.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
The boot flaps are also not nearly that wide.
Right.
If you were to actually approximate the suit, or have someone else like, Dave Cockrum or John Byrne or anybody draw them.
Yeah, they're ridiculous Buccaneer boots.
Buccaneer boots are not that. Buccaneer boots, Captain America has them, Taskmaster has them, those have Scott Summers, Cyclops occasionally will have them.
Yeah.
Those are the folds.
Yeah.
They fold over.
This is just like if you took the fold, cut it down the center, and then super
you
glued them
give
up.
Buccaneer
It's like a
boots a
popped
V-neck.
fold.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a popped V-neck fold for Buccaneer boots.
Exactly.
I'm sorry you're not a fan. I myself am. I'm down for anything that Eric Larson wants to do.
So you like the Spider-Man depiction? Because to me, he looks old. Like, look at this. That looks straight out of, like, 1972.
But you're so old.
I mean, that's because the book is 40 years old. Like, it already is old. So for you, the sensibilities of Spider-Man are, modern influence.
Maybe.
For me, this looks modern and new. But also Larson is doing an homage throwback.
You're getting a much bigger eye on Spider-Man than previous comics.
Yeah, no.
That's the
Ditko and Romita had smaller
McFarlane
eyes.
eye.
Yeah, that's McFarlane influenced eyes. Although Larson did popularize moving the eyes, like making them actually emote to
like Deadpool.
Imply to suggest his emotions.
Right.
They don't actually move.
Right.
It's
a dramatic license, or artistic license.
Yeah. And then Marvel Studios went, but what if they literally did though? And I remember being in the theater being like, that's awesome. What if they did? I would be delighted. Apparently. Turns out
I
it's
do
neat.
like that.
I do like that and I'm okay with it, though I don't like it all the time. I like it for that. Don't
Maybe
try
keep it
to
under
mess
control.
up my comic books with your goddamn movies.
I also like it when he accidentally goes into kill mode.
Yeah. Which is something that Spider-Man would have deactivated personally. Like, there's no way.
Well, he didn't know.
Would you like to activate instant kill mode?
No.
What?
But then he does in Endgame.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but he's like, well,
These are
That's because they're aliens.
it's part of the code. It's in there. I turned it off, but I can turn it back on.
Right, but he shouldn't. He's Spider-Man.
Yeah, but I know there's aliens and stuff, so
No.
It's like Batman. I can kill aliens.
I can kill aliens.
Yeah.
Batman.
I can even use a gun to kill aliens. Doesn't matter.
Right.
That's right.
Oh yeah! Batman's just a bloodthirsty maniac, just waiting for an excuse. Hold me back. So anyway, there you have it. If it's collected, it's in the comments down below. You can pick it up if you want. Otherwise, you can find it in various forms. Marvel Comics Presents.
It's likely to be.
Oh yeah, it's somewhere.
Yeah.
It's in something.
Do you have these terrible 1995 Marvel Flair comics?
I have these awesome Marvel 1995 Flair Ultra cards. Yeah.
Because Hulk 2099 looks like a gremlin.
Yeah, he does all the time. That's his design.
That's
Hulk 2099 looks like hot ass.
They did that on purpose.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty cool looking storm.
Right?
Yeah, the storm was good.
No, everybody looks dope. Venom looks insane.
Even Spider-Man. That's the cool motion blur.
Yeah.
No.
Oh yeah. Well, they just got Photoshop, so they're like, oh my god. They were implementing new modern coloring and effect techniques. You know, we got like lens flares and reflective surfaces and metal and glass objects. No, these were cutting edge, and they were made of thick cardstock. Yeah, man, the good old days.
How about Despair? Top left.
Yeah, Despair. D''spare. He's a demon. Well,
They gotta have weird names like that.
yeah. Well, because it's like, no, it would be too obvious if my name was Despair.
Right.
I'm Despair.
How about Mary Jane on the bottom right?
Yeah.
Yeah, who just looks like a photo.
Yeah.
Who's just wearing a bathing suit.
Well, like, it's Mary Jane. She has no powers to display. She's Spider-Man's wife. But they still made a card of her. It's like Sabretooth, Havoc, Venom, and Mary Jane Watson Parker.
And you're crazy, so you have to collect them all.
I appreciated it because I was like, Mary Jane, that is how fundamental she was.
Right.
She could have been playing a nurse.
Where's the Aunt
from
May card?
Secret Hospital?
No.
No,
No, because she can't be sexy.
Yeah.
Even in this book, she grounds Peter.
That's right.
That's true. She is important, more so
She
than
is
Aunt
important.
Yeah.
She has influence. She gets a card.
She gets a card.
Gets a card. Now, you'd never have a card.
How about one for Uncle Ben where it's just a gravestone?
Again, he's a plot device. He's a MacGuffin. Uncle Ben isn't a character. He's a bumper sticker.
He's a slogan.
Arguably, so is Aunt May.
Yeah.
Arguably. Anyway, we'll see you guys next week with another episode. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm Sal.
I'm Ethan.
I'm Ben.
Jason.
Keep reading. Did it again.
Yeah.
Nailed it again.
Only
Two for
did
two.
one time.
See, I know. I just go last.
See, that's the thing, right? It's like, yeah.
And I go second, and then
Right.
It's because of it's the tempo, right?
I know. I just have to not screw it up.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, you have the hardest job because
Because you're
it
third
moves.
or
Yeah,
last.
Yeah.
Because you're usually and I'm Ben.
That's right. You can't say "and" if you're not the last one.
That's right.
Yeah.
I see.
See?
That's why I always go second because I don't have to worry about it. I just jump in there.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Everyone else. Is the thing going through a phase here?
He's wearing a tank top.
No, but like, look at his face. Like I don't know. He looks.
It's
like
yeah, he just looks sad. Well,
he looks like the anime or something. I don't know.
yeah, it's just you can take more artistic license with the thing because he's not like a guy.
Final Sanction?
Yeah, that is a card depicting a story arc called Final Sanction. See, the Flare Ultra cards didn't just feature the characters; they also featured situations, or teams.
I see.
How come Punisher and Ghost Rider have different bottoms? Everyone else has like a little banner where they have their names.
Those are different.
They don't.
It's probably a different series or something.
It depends on what it's portrayed as. Is it a hologram?
Because this
or
says
is it
this says Marvel something in the corner, so that's part of like a special thing.
Everyone else is in the top left.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, I think it's just.
But it's a different shape.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. It makes sense in the context of itself. I
This
promise
one
you
too.
that they're important. It's important for
the
what they're doing.
Cyclops has the same formatting, so they've got
just
two
switched it.
different.
Maybe it was just because of the based on the art.
This one too. I bet each one
Or-
has two. One in this style and one in the other style.
Or it was just a pack of shitty cards and no one really paid attention to
Yeah, it was designed by
overall-
like two different people. And
Yeah,
just,
you're
like, had
taking
different-
like pre-existing art and printing it onto cardboard and selling it for like 10 times its value.
I'm sure like halfway through the run, they were like, "Oh no, I don't like the way that looks. Do it different. Do
Yeah.
it this way."
Yeah.
It's like, but I already made half of them.
Don't get me
way.
wrong.
It doesn't matter.
No,
just-
they
I guess I'll
printed
go back and read it. No.
They
We're not
printed
throwing
them
away
all
those
on one
hours.
sheet.
Yeah. What is it with comics and the word sanction? Like final sanction? I don't think you know what that word means.
Absolutely not.
Omega sanction?
Omega
What the
sanction.
fuck is that? Like,
What does that
you
mean?
just think that word is cool? And
Yeah.
like, why though?
I don't know.
Because it's been sanctioned.
Right? Like,
You know what?
in what way
You know,
has it been sanctioned?
You don't hear it very
Sanctioned by
often.
whom?
It's a word you don't hear very often, but it sounds authoritative.
It does. Well, it's something to do with politics, I know.
Right?
International
and like there's some kind of
geopolitics.
potential kerfuffle happening.
Right.
I mean, listen, I would be surprised if there weren't a character named Sanction.
I'm sure there is, right?
If it's a demon, it could be S apostrophe sanction.
There it is. Well done.
Welcome to the couch.